seen the commercials alerting women to the medical issues surrounding transvaginal mesh. And if you've seen these commercials, you may be asking, what is transvaginal mesh and why is the FDA warning women against doctors using it? Well, here to tell and explain everything is Andy Crouppen of Brown & Crouppen. Good morning, Andy.
How are you?
I'm fine. I'm feeling like I'm going to be very educated after this because I am one of those people who saw the commercial and thought, what is transvaginal mesh? But this is actually something that doctors are using to treat a pretty common issue with women.
Yeah, what can happen is after menopause or pregnancy, there can be an issue with the vaginal wall, pelvic organ prolapse. And what essentially happens is, you know, in a worst case scenario, some of the pelvic organs can, through the vaginal wall, kind of essentially drop into the vagina and in extreme cases even protrude through the exterior. So it can be very serious and does need to be corrected and is somewhat common but is also very correctable. Historically, it was corrected through surgery. They could just use ligaments or sutures internally and just sort of fix what the body already had.
To kind of lift it, put it back in place, and tighten it up, for lack of a better word.
Exactly.
Okay, but some doctors are using this transvaginal mesh, which almost looks like a net to kind of support everything so that it stays where it's supposed to stay.
Right. Sometime in the mid-90s, they started doing that. And the surgery in and of itself can be successful. The problem is there's a pretty high failure rate, over 10%. And when it fails, it fails
bad.
Yeah, it fails bad.
Let's talk about some of the symptoms and things that can happen when it doesn't go. I mean, is it an infection? What's going on with it when it fails?
It can be. There are a lot of different issues that you can have. Sometimes it's pain, but sometimes extreme pain. You can have some severe infections. In worst case scenarios, you can even have the mesh protrude through the vaginal wall and even sometimes perforate the bladder or some of the pelvic organs.
That sounds very painful.
Yeah. Yeah, and once you've had the surgery, it grows into your tissue, so what can happen is even when they try to correct it, it can become permanent and require several surgeries just to correct it, and they can't always even get it out and then start from scratch. So
it's FDA approved though, right? But the FDA does have some warnings or safety concerns?
Right. It was FDA approved, but after the fact they realized that it had this high failure rate. Some people blame it on, you know, surgeons who don't have enough expertise in performing the surgery. A lot of people dispute that. The Mayo Clinic won't even do this type of surgery. They feel like the original method, the way they used to correct it, is equally effective and carries far less risk. And the FDA, you know, typically the FDA will issue a warning. They've actually issued 2 warnings on this, which is a little bit uncommon. They've taken this very seriously.
They're calling for studies, for safety studies, right?
They have. They've asked the manufacturers to do studies after the fact while it's already on the market, which is also an uncommon step to take. They haven't pulled it from the market completely, but that's possible.
Okay. Well, and about 200,000 women every year have surgery for this condition. So if someone out there has gone through this surgery, they are having a problem with this transvaginal mesh, what should they do?
You know, I think the best thing to do, if you've had the surgery and are having problems, the first thing to do always is call your doctor. Make sure you see your doctor. But then you may have some legal recourse. Our office is looking into these. Call your lawyer or call a lawyer and ask what your rights are. But if you're facing this problem, and it's a common problem to have after pregnancy or during menopause, you know, discuss options with your doctor. The doctor that you're dealing with may want to do the transvaginal mesh, maybe isn't aware yet that there are this many problems, or maybe they've just had good success. But talk about your options because, like I said, some places are saying the traditional method is just as effective and doesn't carry the same risks.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See, I know you learned something just now. And if you have a legal question for Brown & Crouppen, you can email us at greatday@kmov.com.